infused with the scent of potpourri, the films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com, and while every episode will always be free, if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for a ridiculous amount of bonus audio content, including TV and book reviews, immediate reaction movie reviews, Patreon potpourri episodes, movie commentary tracks, and much more. Those are on a tiered kind of system, so if you just want like TV and book reviews, TV and book reviews and immediate reaction movie reviews, that's $2 level, but you could go up to $5 or $10 to get the full thing. It's all broken down on patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Recently, I've been doing read-along reviews for the Expanse book series, which is a blast. Like, there are 9 novels in the Expanse. I'm doing 6 episodes. I've broken up each novel to 6 different parts, and I'm recording reviews of those individual parts. So it's a long process and everything, but it's a blast because that book series is amazing. Elsewhere, I'm also doing... still doing Last of Us episode reviews that I'm behind on, but I will get to that very soon. Get back to that very soon, but a bunch of stuff there. Anyway, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find me on social media, including Letterboxd at obsessiveviewer, everywhere, basically. And today on the show, we're going to review the latest entry in the Scream franchise, Scream 6, which is currently in theaters, and we're going to round it out with a brief probably non-spoiler review of the new Hulu movie, Boston Strangler, which is on Hulu. And joining me today to facilitate those reviews, or to help with those reviews, I don't know, is returning guest, my IFJ colleague and friend, Sam Watermeier, whose Letterboxd activity can be followed at letterboxd.com/SamMovieMan, and whose written work can be followed and found at Midwest Film Journal. Sam, welcome back to the podcast, and how's it going?
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm happy to be back, and I'm doing well.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of
Returning
course.
champion.
Yes, returning champion, Sam Watermeier. The last episode you were on was actually, I think was it January? We did the breakdown of the IFJ top movies of the year of 2022. That was yes, episode 388. No, it wasn't. It was episode 387. It was in December, I think. Yeah, so welcome back.
Thanks. It's kind of fitting that the last time I was talking about our IFJ award winners, because now we're going to talk about the Oscars, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Because this is the first episode of Obsessive Viewer where we're on the air after the Oscars. So I'm excited to kind of pick your brain about some of the winners and pick your brain like a certain raccoon in one of the movies. But yeah, so yeah, we can get right into that. But first, what is some stuff that you've posted online recently in terms of film criticism and everything? Do you want to, I want to kind of give you the floor to share what you've recently posted around the internets, because you've had a really good year so far in terms of written stuff and everything.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. My most recent review, I guess it's kind of an old review now, but it's a repost of my review of The Lost King, now that that's out nationwide. I originally reviewed it when it screened at the Heartland Film Festival last year. And then, let's see, I've also reviewed Boston Strangler recently. For that one, it's cool to note that that film is included in Quill Magazine's ongoing list of the best and worst journalism movies.
Yes.
So the Society of Professional Journalists, which puts out Quill Magazine, partnered with Midwest Film Journal to create this list of journalism movies, and we add to it, once in a blue moon, and we thought with the release of Boston Strangler, it would be a good time to add 10 more movies to the list.
Nice.
So you can check out the full list at quillmag.com. Let's see. I've also posted an essay on the David Cronenberg movie, Existenz.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of Midwest Film Journal's Cronenberg series this month in honor of his 80th birthday.
I love I love the name of that series, that essay series. Ew, David.
Yeah,
it's just great.
Yeah, it's called Ew, David, and I have noticed, especially after watching Existenz, all of his movies are very sexual.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always something sexual going on thematically, or visually. Like in Existenz, which is about a virtual reality video game, the characters' controllers are like fleshy.
Oh, wow.
And they plug them into their spines via this like umbilical cord like thing.
Wow.
Yeah, he that's kind of his signature with his sci-fi stuff, like fleshy technology.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
For me, like, I've seen a few of his movies, but there's a lot of blind spots for me, and I think it's just like body horror stuff really, really gets to me. Like, I can't. There's something about it that it really makes me uncomfortable. So like I need to face my fears and see like that, and even like his son's stuff. Like I saw Possessor. I that was pretty mild. That was fine. But for some reason I have a hang up. Like I don't want to see. I'm nervous to see. Infinity Pool. Yeah, that's Brandon Cronenberg, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his latest.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious that you're kind of queasy because you're so obsessed with Scream.
I know, and that's so weird. And like, it's interesting because like after Radio Silence took over the franchise for Scream, like Scream 22 and Scream 6 have been like
the most
wildly violent. Yeah. And I'm like kind of all for it, but I don't know. There's just something that makes me very uneasy about Cronenberg's work. Like I didn't see Crimes of the Future either for that reason. Like just that, I don't know. I can't. Yeah.
Crimes of the Future was hyped up way too much. Like I think Cronenberg himself said he expected people to have panic attacks and to walk out. And I was like, when I was watching it, I was like, when am I supposed to have a panic attack? Like at the thought of this never ending?
Right.
Like it's just, I found that movie so dull, and
wow.
And the gory parts are about as gross as Han Solo cutting open the Tauntaun in Empire Strikes Back. Wow. Like almost said Empire of the Jedi. Jesus Christ. Like it's just very cheesy and I don't know. Yeah. I found that one to be kind of a dull rehash of stuff he's done before.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I didn't mean to detract you or to do that. Like, what else have you done?
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's okay. I wasn't like pushing us into the Oscars.
Oh no. You're fine.
It's your show.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of movies that I think we were talking about that before. Yeah, we were talking about that before, like even recording, but movies that I've missed out on because I haven't been going to the movie theater as much as I thought that I would be these last couple of months. You also wrote a review of Cocaine Bear, which I want to see, but I just haven't gotten around to it. How was it? Is it fun? As fun as it seems like it would be?
It's fun and forgettable.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the kind of thing you see on a Saturday night and you walk out and say, "Oh, that was fun,"
Okay.
and then promptly forget about it. I mean,
Gotcha.
it's actually, it works surprisingly well as kind of a family drama.
Okay.
It's like oddly sweet. And the stuff with the bear high on cocaine is fun. It's a little tame. I mean,
Mhm.
it probably could have gone a little crazier, but it seems like the movie's also trying to appeal to mass audiences.
Oh,
So
yeah.
in that sense, it succeeds. I mean, it's an oddly crowd pleasing movie about a bear high on cocaine. So that's a very odd, specific sort of movie.
Right. It is definitely speaking to a very, very specific demographic, I'm sure. But it's
Yeah.
good to know that there's a good middle ground with that, with family drama stuff, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah. So the Oscars happened some time ago. I did not watch the Oscars, but I did see some highlights and everything. Kind of overall, I was pretty, like, there was nothing in terms of winners that I was upset about, really. I was pretty pleased with pretty much everything. Yeah. How did you feel about the Oscars this year?
I thought they were fun. I thought Jamie Kimmel was great. I enjoyed his kind of biting remarks about the slap from last year and how no one really did anything.
Right.
When that happened, they gave Will Smith a standing ovation, which was
Yeah.
odd. But yeah, I thought he was funny. It's really cool to see a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once sweep in so many categories, and to see Asian representation with Ki Hu Kwan and Michelle Yeoh winning.
Oh, yeah.
Dan Kwan. And I mean, Ki Hu Kwan winning, just what a delightful personal comeback.
Oh, absolutely.
That was to witness, and to see him receive the Oscar from Harrison Ford, from Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom being his first movie. What a cool full circle moment.
Oh, absolutely. And his speech, man, I watched it the next day and I was just like, I was tearing up, like just genuine tears of just like, I was just so happy for him. Like, he just seems like it was so wholesome and just beautiful. I loved it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, me too. And to see, his Encino Man co-star Brendan Fraser win Best Actor was great. I was worried that Austin Butler was going to win, and I say worried just because, with The Whale, Brendan Fraser portrayed a character we've really never seen before on screen, at least portrayed sensitively. And I wanted to see that win over, Elvis. I mean, it's just, that would have been such a traditional sort of Best Actor win, and I'm glad the Oscars didn't go that way.
Me too. Nothing against, honestly, like, Austin Butler's performance was really good. Like, I will say that his performance was the best thing about that movie, but it's also, you can Baz Luhrmann up as much as you can, as much as you want in a music biopic, but it is still a music biopic. Like, it is by my estimation, it is the most worn out type of movie. And there was nothing, like, all the stylistic choices were unique enough for like in a visual context, but you, like I said, you can dress it up any way you want, but it's still just that same music biopic with, you know, the same as like Rocket Man from a few years ago. Like like as interesting and as like flourishing as that was, I guess would be the word, it was still just really dull and boring to me. Like, I just have such an aversion to that. So I'm glad that the Academy, you know, awarded a movie that is a bit more substantive than you know, the, like you said, the kind of normal pick, I guess, or expected one.
Yeah, definitely. And why music biopics keep being made after Walk Hard is beyond me.
Yes.
I mean, that movie really like put the nail in the coffin on musician biopics.
It really did. It really did. Yeah, I'm trying to come up, like, the wrong genre died. But it's
like, it exposes their exact formula.
Exactly.
And it's like, and then movies kept coming out after that with the same formula, and it's like,
oh yeah,
I don't get it.
Yeah, and even then, like, they have there's a long, like, obviously Walk Hard is the prime example of that, but like Pop Star, Never Stop Never Stopping is in that similar vein. And then even last year with Weird, the Al Yankovic story, which I loved, like, that's the same kind of thing. Like, and I'm sure that there's going to be just millions of other like music biopics that come out. And I don't know, it's a genre that just never really grabs me. Yeah.
Yeah, the worst one that has been announced is this Michael Jackson biopic.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ, really?
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting, and I don't know, this is, it's the weirdest thing on Twitter. Like, I don't know. I don't want to bring up like the controversy around Michael Jackson or anything, but like when that documentary was on HBO, and people were like, "Oh, yeah, well, that is a lot of evidence to levy at him and everything like that. Maybe all that stuff was true and everything." There is a contingent of Twitter that will like make it their sole objective online to just like search Michael Jackson's name on Twitter and then defend his name anytime anyone says anything negative about him. And it's like, it's this weird deifying kind of pattern that I see with anything, really. Like, I just saw Justin Roiland, who the embattled co-creator of Rick and Morty, he posted something on Twitter about how, like, because they dropped the domestic abuse charges against him, and he had posted this long thing saying like, yeah, you know, I knew that, you know, the truth would come out and everything, and like now I'm here to, you know, try to repair my name and everything. And then like everyone was like, well, yeah, but you like, in the fallout of all of that, all of these very creepy and unsettling DMs that you sent to underage girls came out. Like, do you have any comments on that? But like, if you go through the replies, there are people that are still like, well, do you have proof of that? Like, yeah, you do. It's right there. Like, yeah, it's just, the internet's weird, man.
Well, like, all controversy aside, when you have an amazing music video like the one for Thriller,
yes,
like, do you really need a recreation of that?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't, like, cinematically, I don't really understand the point of a Michael Jackson biopic. Because there's so much out there already to consume. It's like, what are we? We've seen all of this.
Yeah.
We've seen him do the moonwalk. Like, I don't know.
Like, I'm just thinking of the just like the the prerequisite like contrived scenes that will be in the biopic, like he's like as a kid he's watching TV and then he sees like the news comes on and says like this is the anniversary of the moon landing, and he sees like Neil Armstrong walking on the moon, and then he's like that gives me an idea. Like just like the most contrived like crap in music biopics. Yeah. So I don't know. It's we'll see. I'll eventually see it, I'm sure, but that is I honestly don't think there's another like genre or subgenre of movie that I have less of an interest in than music biopics. I don't know.
And I don't have a problem with biopics in general. It just it seems like music biopics follow the exact same sort of structure.
Right.
And you know, there's always the performance montages and you know, the greatest hits and whatever, and
yep.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree. It's the most formulaic of like that I can think of. Like you said, biopics are fine. I'm excited for Oppenheimer, specifically because I know that'll be unique. I've fallen a little bit out of favor on Nolan, but I think that he'll at least give something unique with it. So yeah. So anyway, Jamie Lee Curtis won Best Supporting Actress. How'd you feel about that?
I thought that was really cool. I mean, mostly just to see someone who started as kind of a genre star, you know, with her being a scream queen, to see her get this sort of A-list recognition was really cool. I thought her reaction was really endearing. I think she said something like, "Oh, shut up," when her name was announced. Angela Bassett did not look happy.
No, she did the thing though.
I guess she did the thing.
That whole thing was just in my head for like the numerous days after it. Yeah. Is
she even in much of Wakanda Forever?
She is like, and she does a really good job.
Okay.
She has like some really good pivotal scenes. There's a lot that she gives to the role in terms of grief, but I mean that whole movie is like MCU grief movie, because of Chadwick Boseman's death, of course. But there are some really good performances in it. But I also
okay. Well, you don't have to yell at me.
No. But yeah, but anytime like I don't know. I feel like anytime comic book movies like that are nominated, it feels less like it was an earned nomination and more of a like we're recognizing that this, you know, fandom driven blockbuster machine exists. And I don't mean to be as reductive as I'm sounding with regards to Black Panther, of course. But it just feels more like a response to outcry of like kind of the same thing with them putting the nominations out to 10 Best Picture nominees from 5. It just feels more like okay, we'll recognize more mainstream movies, and I don't know. I just kind of feel like that feels like a little bit. I don't know. It feels a little bit not pandering, but kind of like a like good job, buddy thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, this year, I think the obvious sort of good job, buddy nominees were like Avatar 2.
Yeah.
You know, maybe Elvis. Well, no, I'm going to take that back. I don't know what I'm saying.
No, you're good. I think Elvis could fall in there a little bit. Top Gun Maverick also maybe.
That seemed like a legitimate contender, though, to me at least.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at past nominations recently, and we've come a long way from in terms of the kind of movies that are nominated. Like I was looking at the nominees in like 1998, and it was Shakespeare in Love and Elizabeth were both nominated for Best Picture, and it's like, wow, artsy fartsy art house period pieces.
Jeez.
So it's nice that to see stuff like Top Gun getting recognition,
right? And I guess in '98, I'm looking at 98 for '97, I think, because I've got the winner was what is it? Am I in '98? Yeah, Titanic won in '98 for '97, so I think I need to go to '99 for what you're looking at, but. Yes, okay, yeah, and Shakespeare in Love won. Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful. Oh yeah, that was the year that Saving Private Ryan got snubbed. Yeah. Yeah, so anything else with the Oscars? Did you see the video of the like backstage video of Brendan Fraser and Ke Huy Quan, kind of like him coming up and like talking to him and stuff, like them just kind of sharing.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah.
So their two wins in particular, I think, were the highlights.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So, any other thoughts on the Oscars? Or do you want to go into our reviews for the evening?
Ready for Scream, baby.
Alrighty, let's do it. So, Scream 6, Scream VI is upon us. Came out a couple of weeks ago. It got, in terms of box office numbers, I think it is the highest performing movie in the franchise, which is incredible. Of course, it is a direct sequel to Scream 5 or 5 Cream or Scream 22, which came out last year, directed by Radio Silence, Matt Bettinelli, and Tyler Gillette, along with their producer, Chad something, can't remember, written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. Scream 6, I'll go ahead and bring us into it with a plot summary, and then we can kind of just talk about our feelings on it. But the premise for Scream 6 is, in the next installment, the survivors of the Ghostface killings leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter in New York City. The movie stars Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Mason Gooding, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Hayden Panettiere, and Courtney Cox. So, Sam, let's go ahead and talk about Scream in terms of like the franchise overall. What is your kind of experience with it? And also, before you go, before you answer, I'm going to say that on Patreon, I have commentary tracks for Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, with Mike, our recurring co-host Mike, and we're going to do Scream 5 and Scream 6 eventually. But that is on Patreon at the $5 level, so go and support us on Patreon to get access to that. But Sam, the Scream franchise, how do you feel about it going into Scream 6?
Love it.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to go back and listen to your commentaries. That'd be fun to watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, I pretty much love all of these movies. I have my quibbles with some of the later ones, but to me, Scream is like pizza.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, even if it's bad, it's still pizza.
Yep.
And none of them have been outright bad to me. To kind of preface this with my history with the franchise, I was a kid when the first one came out, but I was very aware of it. I remember really wanting to see it.
Nice.
And I had actually watched the opening scene when I was very young, when it came out on video, and I watched it in my aunt's house, and she lived kind of like out in bumfuck nowhere.
Oh, nice.
So after the opening scene, which I didn't even get through because I was so scared. I think I turned it off after Ghostface says to Drew Barrymore, "I want to see what your insides look like."
Nice.
I couldn't get past that point. So I turned it off, and then I just like looked down my aunt's driveway at just like forest, and I was so scared.
That's awesome.
Yeah, to watch it in kind of a secluded place was really fitting.
Nice.
And of course, I watched the whole thing later on. I think the first time I saw the first Scream all the way through was probably like 5th grade.
Nice.
I love the original. It's iconic. I consider it a classic. And I pretty much love all the sequels. I think Scream 2 is a blast. I'm actually kind of a Scream 3 apologist or staunch defender. I think that one takes the meta stuff to a really cool level by exploring the movie within the movie. Stab. There's this great chase sequence through the Stab set of Woodsboro. That's cool. That's really cool on a visual and meta level.
By far, for me, the standout of that movie is that sequence. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember. I think Scream 4 was actually the first one I saw in the theater.
Nice.
So I was in college, and I think that one's fun. Scream 4 and Scream 5 to me, sometimes feel a little bit too much like Return to Woodsboro.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I enjoy Scream 5, but at the same time, like, it's mostly a walk down memory lane. It doesn't really feel like kind of a bold leap forward like Scream 6 does to me. But I understand that. I mean, it's it's a love letter to Wes Craven, really, and you put it perfectly when you said it's like a bear hug for the franchise.
Exactly. Yes.
So to me, the killer's motivation in that one isn't quite as interesting, but I feel like Scream 6 makes up for that in an interesting way, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Oh yeah.
But Scream 6, I thought it was a blast. I wanted a New York slice, baby. And it gives a delicious New York slice.
Yes, it does.
And it really like gets going right away.
Yes. Like I think for non-spoilers, I don't want to give away too much of the opening sequence, but what I love about these movies, what I'm dubbing the radio silence era of the Scream franchise, is that each one of their installments, Scream 5 and Scream 6, has subverted that opening sequence in some unique ways. Like the first one with Scream 5, that is a big subversion because Tara survives. Like it's not an opening kill, which is just something that threw me for a loop a little bit. And then Scream 6 changes the game in some pretty unique ways. And I thought that opening sequence was absolutely just chef's kiss. Brilliant. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That sequence really impressed me. Because, right away it puts you in a hip downtown New York restaurant.
Yep.
The girl on the phone is a film studies professor.
Yep.
Actually, I think she actually teaches a course on slasher movies.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Mm-hmm.
It comments on the sort of evolution of communication in an interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
She's just texting her date,
mm-hmm.
and he asks if he can call,
mm-hmm.
and it's like that taps into a dread we all have now.
That's a really good point. Oh yeah. Yep.
and it's funny to watch that and then remember when people would just straight up answer the call from Ghostface,
right,
not knowing who it was back in the 90s, before
yeah.
caller ID.
Yep.
And it's cool that the franchise hasn't just let go of the communication element.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
that is an important part. I mean, Ghostface calling people is a motif that I feel like they've actually given some thought to, which is nice.
Oh yeah, and that kind of gives I think one of the kind of standout elements for the Scream franchise is something that's it's referenced in Scream 5 when one of the killers says like the problem with the stab movies is that there's no returning villain that's coming back from the dead. There's no Jason, there's no Michael Myers or anything. So you need to make your own. And what I love about the Scream franchise is it's kind of like have its cake and eat it too, where we have like unique whodunit mysteries at the center of each film and different killers, different motives for each movie, but that connective tissue is the phone calls and the work of Roger Jackson, who has done the voice for Ghostface since the beginning. And I had listened to a podcast where Radio Silence was on. I can't remember if it was Dead Meat or Kingcast, but they were talking about how they worked with Roger Jackson for this one, and how he had how they basically direct him to do the voices and everything. And then they had talked about how like at one point they were like having conversations with him or like emailing back and forth, and I guess like they had come down with COVID or something, so they had to briefly shut down production or something like that. And so they said that like, yeah, and he gave us like a bunch of advice on like handling COVID and everything, because when he had it, like what helped and everything. And then they were just like, yeah, we were just like, oh, thanks, Ghostface. It's cool. Which, yeah. So I don't know. I love the phone call aspect of it is one of those tenets of the franchise that I don't think can or should ever be broken. Although they come very close to breaking it, in my opinion, in Scream 3 with the voice changer application of it, which, yeah. If you do listen to the commentary tracks, Sam, I think Scream 3 is going to be an interesting one for you. Mike and I just kind of, we pick it apart pretty severely, and I don't hate it. I don't hate any of these movies. I love this franchise, but man, Scream 3 just doesn't work for me a lot of the time. So yeah,
that's fine. It's okay to be wrong. Yeah, I mean, I guess the voice changer thing is a bit far-fetched.
No, I love science fiction. I will say that. Well, I guess it's technically not really science fiction, but it's, it just didn't work for me.
There's another point in this one. I won't spoil it, but a character is talking to Ghostface, and she asks, "Can I call you back?" And it's really funny because his reaction is like, "Huh?"
I love it
like
so much.
That like breaks his brain, which is great. Or I'll say breaks their brain.
Right, right.
You don't know.
Yes.
You never know who Ghostface will be.
Yes.
And if it's one person or multiple.
Right. Are we officially going on record and saying that Ghostface is non-binary and their pronouns are they and them?
I think we should.
Yes. All right. We're doing it.
Okay.
But yeah, we will talk in spoilers about that phone call because oh man, I loved that sequence. Yeah, this movie's a lot of fun. But to lightly, not necessarily lightly spoil the opening sequence, but to just kind of jump off this conversation to talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk in more specifics and spoilers, but there is a level of reverence that these two movies, Scream and Scream 6, have for the franchise, and I felt that when the phone call began at the beginning of the movie, because for a moment, because of the context of it, I thought like it kind of threw me off a little bit because I thought like, oh man, are they bringing back that like voice changing thing? Are they going to do like different voices because of the context of it? And like, I don't know if that's an intentional thing that they did as a nod to Scream 3, or if it was just something that they just worked out because of like lulling us into that false sense of security and then going into the subversion of the expectations for the opening sequence. But did it give you any vibes of Scream 3 in that moment?
You mean like when it switches from the date's voice to Ghostface? Or?
When she is on the phone with the date, in particular, like when we just hear that person's voice and not Ghostface's voice, like, did it make you think that maybe they were going to do like maybe we can just talk about that in spoilers because I think that would be a little bit tricky to navigate, but, for me, it felt like a little bit like Scream 3, because Scream 3 opens with Cotton getting the phone call from a woman and then it eventually leading to Ghostface. And then this is kind of that same sort of scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll say this, and this isn't going to spoil it, but yeah, it is interesting. It's an interesting choice because in the original Scream, it's just the voice of Ghostface right away.
Right.
And we totally buy into that.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess there's not really a need for a voice change.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that they chose to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it didn't really bother me, though. I just kind of bought into it.
Oh, yeah. To be clear, it didn't bother me at all. It just kind of made me think, like, I was wondering if they were intentionally, like, doing that just so... Because, like, the expectation is that it would be Ghostface's voice. Like, that's the expectation from the jump.
Sure.
But, yeah. So, yeah, we can talk about that more in spoilers.
Well, and I guess it's funny because the audience knows right away, like, this isn't going to be her date.
Right. Yeah.
You just know as a Scream fan, like, this is totally Ghostface.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I love that. I love that the movie... I love that the movie takes place in New York City. That's been a big part of the promotion of it, obviously. It's been, like, a big thing about the movie and the marketing and everything is New York, new rules or whatever. But what I love is that it's still a Scream movie. It does some very unique things with the New York City setting, but it is still a Scream movie. Like, it doesn't rely on it's not like any big, like, they're not being chased through like the Statue of Liberty. They're not like going like, we need to go to the top of the Empire State Building to find Ghostface. It's just like, yeah, there's a bodega scene. Yes, there is a bar in Manhattan scene, and very like a very cool latter scene, I'll say that. But it's still it isn't a gimmicky change of location, which I really appreciate about it. Yeah, how did you feel about the New York setting and the way that they executed it? No pun intended.
Well, I think what's interesting is that the set pieces are very like self-contained. You know, Ghostface doesn't really interrupt, or I should say disrupt, like big public gatherings. And I think part of the point is that this mayhem can sort of happen in a big city without disruption. Like that's what's disturbing, is that someone can get stabbed. Someone can get stabbed on a subway, and you know, it doesn't really affect New York traffic all that much. I think, and so I think that's interesting. There aren't these like big sweeping set pieces where he like wreaks mass havoc. You just see him attack individuals in large gatherings without really anyone noticing.
Right. Yeah, and that's a really good point. Plus, I think that the choice to make it set around like the week of Halloween basically was a really interesting choice, and it makes me very excited to go back and watch it again because of all of the Easter eggs that are there. Because I think I had read where they had crammed so many Easter eggs with just costumes, like in the subway scene. Like there are I think like something like 50 to 100 different like costumes there that they had talked about it on one of the podcasts I listened to, where they had said that they wanted to do they had a list of costume ideas that they wanted to incorporate in it, and like Paramount or Spyglass or whoever is in charge was like, well, we need to figure out like legally how we can handle that and everything. And then so they were like, oh, we're not going to be able to do that. And then legal came back, and I guess they were like, oh yeah, you can go ahead and do whatever, as long as the people in the costumes aren't doing the things that the character is known for, you can do whatever. So they were like, okay. And like they just crammed as many references as they could. And I don't know, I'm really excited to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, that subway sequence was the first clip that was really revealed in the marketing. And I just thought, you know, what a brilliant idea. Like a bunch of people dressed as Ghostface on a subway, along with other people in costumes because it's Halloween. Like, just that so is freaking cool. Just a great concept for a sequence.
Oh yeah. So what did you think of this? What did you think of the returning characters, the core four as they're dubbed in this movie? Melissa Barrera as Sam, Jenna Ortega as Tara, Mason Goodings, Chad, and Jasmine Savoy Brown's Mindy. They're the returning survivors from Scream 5, and then we also have returning legacy character, obviously Gail Weathers, Courtney Cox, and Kirby making her return from Scream 4, played by Hayden Panettiere. So how did you feel about all of these people in this movie?
I thought they were great. I think they have great chemistry. I'm not quite ready to say that they're as good as the original ensembles. But I think what's great is that Radio Silence is continuing this theme of chosen family and friends, kind of supporting each other. Obviously with this one, it seems like everyone is keeping an eye out on Tara, who decides to just really live her life as if Ghostface isn't a threat. Of course, that makes her sister nervous. But the same sort of there was the same sort of dynamic between Sydney and the other Woodsboro characters in the previous sequels. And, they showed her frustration at not being able to live a normal life. Tara wants to go to these college parties, but her core 4 friends are always lingering around. And, that's an interesting theme. And I'm glad Radio Silence has, continued exploring it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That kind of, I mean, it's, I'm not going to say it's fashionable to do this, but like it is ingrained in the horror genre, really, the like survived trauma sort of motif throughout, the entire genre, really. And what I think is really unique and interesting about Scream as a franchise is that we have these returning characters who are bound by that kind of shared trauma, basically. And here we have basically a mostly new crop of characters that were introduced in the last movie, and they are now carrying that. And again, it kind of goes back to the fact that Scream as an idea, as a franchise, is something that, like, it is the brand is Ghostface, and Ghostface can be anyone. Ghostface is something that could be lingering or could not be lingering, but is not like this supernatural being. And I think that that's really interesting in terms of delving into the character's trauma, because like you can tell that Tara in this movie she is not wanting to confront, like that experience. She's not wanting to confront the fact that, they are famous for something that, or they're kind of living, they're survivors of this massacre, and they are now targets for other people that are psychopaths to come after them. And she doesn't want to confront that. And you can kind of understand, like, yeah, if you go through, like, that's kind of a healthy reaction in the real world, because like you want to move on, you want to get away from it, but she's also being reckless and wanting to like put herself into positions into precarious positions that may not be to her, like may not lead to her overall safety, I guess. I don't know. But I just think it's really interesting for me to word salad all over the podcast.
No, and I'm glad you brought up the healthy reaction to trauma, because I was going to say, what ties the survivors and Ghostface together is that they're both Ghostface is, with the exception of the 5th movie, always dealing with trauma as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Ghostface killers all have their own traumas, and the only thing that separates them from their prey is how they deal with it, and it's always obviously in an unhealthy way.
Man, that is shit. That's really good. That's really good. I like that. The kind of not parallel thinking, but the kind of like mirror of the victims versus the killers. That's really interesting. Man, that's really good. Yeah.
Well, I take that as a high compliment from you, being a Scream super fan.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, and I guess that's kind of why the 5th one, the ending at least, just doesn't quite land for me. I feel like the motivation just isn't. It's just not personal, and it. Yeah. But that's criticizing a very small part of the movie. I mean,
yeah, but also, yeah, and that's a pretty divisive, a divisive element of the franchise, I would say, because that's something that it is the only motivation that isn't tied to a personal grudge or a personal experience or anything, and it's like my reaction, my fanboy reaction to it last year, and I still hold true to it, is that, man, that means that it literally opens it up to anyone being Ghostface. Like, it doesn't have to be like a personal thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, But do you want to go into spoilers for Scream 6?
Yeah, I think, I'm ready.
Okay. First, what did you rate it on Letterboxd, and where would you rank it in the franchise thus far?
My immediate rating after seeing it was 3.5 out of 5 stars. Thinking about bumping it up to 4.
Nice.
Just because the more I think about it, the more I like it.
Nice.
I think I felt like the ending didn't quite land for me in the theater, but the more I think about it, the more I enjoy it. Where I would rank it, let's see. I'd probably do Scream number 1, the 1996 original, Scream 3, Scream 2, Scream 5, 4. Well, wait, no. I don't know. This is so hard. I don't want to rank them right now.
Okay, that is fair. I have a list on Letterboxd that is the franchise ranked thus far. I have number 1 is Scream 96. There's no way that will be dethroned. That movie is way too important to me. Read my essay on Midwest Film Journal about Scream and Scream 2. But I ranked at number 2 is actually Scream 22.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And then 3, which is basically tied for 2, honestly, at this point, is Scream 2. Then this one, Scream 6, is number 4, rated at 4 stars. And Scream 4 is number 5, and Scream 3 is at the bottom.
Damn you.
I know, but I can't, yeah.
No, and it makes sense that Scream 22 would be up there for you because it is such a love letter to the first one.
Absolutely. It is. Even with I can't. There's nothing really I can fault it for at all. Really, it's just it's beautiful. I think I've watched that damn movie like 8 times.
I've seen you on Letterboxd. A lot. Yeah.
It's just it is a weirdly comforting comfort movie for me. And yet I'm still terrified to watch a David Cronenberg movie. So okay, so let's go into spoilers for Scream 6. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling Scream 6. If you want to skip that, check the show notes for timestamps. Show notes, of course, can be found at obsessiveviewer.com/OV391. So here's a clip from the trailer, and then spoilers on for Scream 6.
This isn't like any other ghost face.
What is this place?
A shrine.
We've got to lure him in.
We execute him.
Hello.
Let's play a game.
You know you're like the 10th guy to try this, right? It never works out for the dipshit in the mask.
Maybe. But there's never been one like me, Gale. I'm something different.
That's why I'm gonna shoot you in the fucking head.
So, spoilers on for Scream 6. Sam, there's a lot to dive into with this. First, let's talk about the opening sequence here in just a second. But first, I want to get a read on our thoughts on Kirby's return, because I forgot to bring that up again in the non-spoilers. How'd you feel about Hayden Panettiere reprising her role from Scream 4?
More than welcome.
Nice.
she's badass. And she is an FBI agent in this one?
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, I wish that I hadn't been spoiled on that. Like, I'd seen like an internet like rumor thing on Twitter But I thought that was an interesting angle to bring her back, which it tracks really well for the character and it makes perfect sense. There was something about her involvement in this movie that I kind of loved as a red herring. She's very much painted as the red herring of the movie. Like, there were moments like leading up to the third act reveal where the killers are revealed, which we'll talk about obviously. But there were moments leading up to that where I was like, they're leaning pretty heavily on Kirby being the killer, or at least one of the killers. And I'm just like, man, that would be so wild. And like the movie even, like, it does this thing where it is hinting again, it's playing into the fan base, like fan theories about Stu being alive and how they want Matthew Lillard back and everything. And it's a fun like wink at the audience, but there are moments where, like, let me just kind of, let me go through my mental state when like the movie is playing out. Like, basically, Bailey is played by Dermot Mulroney. He is a cop who they have that one specific scene where he's like, hey, check with the FBI and make sure that she's like legit and everything. And I'm like, okay, that's going to come into play later. And then as it's leading up to it, and she's like, yeah, we'll do a kill box thing. And we have this all set up and everything. This is how we can do it. I'm like, okay. And then when she's in the shrine room and she's talking about, or she and Mindy are talking and they see the TV that fell on Stu, she has this line where she's like, well, if you believe he's really dead. And it's like, that's a fun wink at the audience. That's a lot of fun. And then when the red herring is like coming to the forefront, I'm just sitting there like, are they going to make Kirby the killer and her accomplice be Stu? Is like Stu going to come back and those are going to be the two killers of this movie? And and like, as it was unfolding and as my brain was doing that, I'm someone who like, I love Matthew Lillard. I think that he is one of the best performances in the entire franchise because he is just off the wall, crazy, like awesome. But the dude's dead. Stu is dead. He's not coming back. I do not want them to bring him back in any capacity as like, I don't want that. But in the moment, I'm like, man, that would be wild if like we have two returning like that would be okay. That would be interesting. So yeah, I don't know. But Kirby is a lot of fun. I wish that there was more of her like interacting with Mindy. Like that one scene that she has where they talk about horror movies is fantastic. And how she kind of brings it all together with a found family thing at the end is really nice. But yeah, so I don't know. How did you feel about that and the red herring and everything?
Well, when they get to the Ghostface shrine, that's when I suspected that Kirby might be the killer because she had this, in the fourth one, she had this encyclopedic knowledge of the stab movies. Yeah. And that... The shrine also is awesome. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's this shrine with like little bits of, I guess like real life memorabilia from the actual killings. Yep. That was really cool. Yeah. Which that is such an interesting way to, like, I mean, with Ghostface, like his line at the end of the opening sequence, which we will talk about the opening sequence, of course. But his line about who gives a fuck about movies before he kills Jason is just like, that is such an interesting way to bring us into this movie that is completely like, it doesn't care about the Stab franchise or anything. Instead, it is about real life Ghostface killings. And it's such an interesting angle. And I guess I have a soapbox that'll go on a little bit, but I had like this theory when I saw the Ghostface shrine in the first trailer. And the theory that I had was that like, oh, I bet because Ghostface says like, oh, he's not like other Ghostfaces in the trailer, and there's a shrine to like, there's actual like memorabilia about the actual killings. I'm like, what if the killers are actually just like a group of Ghostface enthusiasts that are killing
people because they're obsessed with Ghostface. And that's why, like, the opening sequence, like, I was like, oh shit, they're really playing that up if that's the case, because like I thought it was just like, oh, someone in the group is killing another one in the group, but that didn't come to play, and that's fine. But the shrine aspect of it is just really, really interesting. I thought that was a really good way to pay homage in a different way for the franchise.
Yeah, and I think what's also cool is that these movies are reminding us that so that memorabilia is from actual killings, not the stab movies. And it's reminding us that the stab movies are based on actual killings, which is kind of fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, maybe there's like an indirect commentary there on our obsession with true crime.
Yeah.
And the way we kind of casually obsess over it, even though, it's ultimately so tragic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm glad that because Scream 2 and Scream 3 and Scream 4 lean pretty heavily on the stab movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like these last two are kind of reminding us, those movies are based on things that actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's always been this like little running thread throughout it. And I like that the fact of it, the like history of it, or the real life angle of it is being brought so much to the forefront in these last two movies, because like in Scream 2 you have the girls in the movie theater lobby like saying like, yeah, I don't want to see this movie because a bunch of kids got killed a couple years ago, and it's based on this, and then yeah, basically Scream 4, I had another example, but anyway, so it's really interesting to see it tie back to the actual Ghostface killings. And there was a thing like there was a line that I wish would have been said, but I think that it's just me, like it doesn't hamper the movie at all for me. But like when Bailey is talking about the evidence and how like people are like they're looking at the shrine and they're saying like, how did whoever did this, how did they get like all of this evidence and everything? And Bailey's like, well, cops like money, so they probably bribed him or whatever. Like, I kind of wish that there would have been like an added line where he's like, and also all of these people are dead, so it's not like they were awaiting trial or anything. Like, it's easy to get the evidence because there's no like trial or anything.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah. But do you want to talk about the set pieces and kind of start with the opening sequence a little bit?
Sure.
To kind of dive more into it. The moment that was another thing. The voice of Tony Revolori, like he has such a distinctive voice that I'm just like, okay, so it's Tony Revolori. I wonder where they're going with this. And then they reveal, like, we have the Ghostface reveal of him being a Ghostface in the beginning, and then he becomes like the real victim of the opening sequence. How did you feel about how that entire opening sequence played out and the kind of changeroo of it? How did that play in your head?
Well, I think, revealing a ghost face within the first 5 minutes is pretty bold.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that he wouldn't be the ghost face for the rest of the movie, but it was still a fun subversion of expectations. And the actual Ghostface, because he's so like cocky about this murder he's pulled off.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's kind of bragging about it over the phone with his buddy, who is, seemingly going to partner with him in killing as Ghostface. And then, the real Ghostface just kind of makes him look pathetic.
Yeah.
By absolutely destroying his friend who he finds in a fridge.
Yes.
That was shockingly violent.
Yeah.
Or gory. Yeah, I really loved that opening sequence.
Me too.
And the suspense in knowing that the date is going to be Ghostface, knowing that his friend is going to be Ghostface. It's like we all know the formula, but it's still really fun to watch it play out, which I think is a testament to the how this franchise kind of stands the test of time.
Oh, absolutely. Each opening sequence is its own like horror short film. And it's just it's so interesting how each one kind of gives us a little peek inside like the motives of the killers and the kind of general attitude of what the movie is going to be. It's setting up the movie and the general vibe of it. So like Ghostface saying, who gives a fuck about movies? That's, because they're talking about real Ghostface and like Scream 5 is all about stab trivia. So it's like, yeah, it's fandom and, the other ones. So it's just really interesting to see that play out and to see it play out so well is really fun. Like when Ghostface is taunting him and like when he kills him, like because he talks about how, Jason, Tony Revolori, he talks about how like, oh yeah, when I stabbed her, it was like she was an animal and she was nothing. And then like Ghostface is taunting him as he's stabbing him, saying like, do you feel like an animal? Do you feel like nothing? I'm just like, fucking awesome. But yeah, but I also really am fascinated by the fact that like there is this like the way that this movie, the opening sequence subverts everything by having us it leads us down a path thinking that we're going to be following one of the killers throughout the movie, which I thought was really interesting and I was a little nervous about because it was like if that's going to be the case, it'll be interesting, but also I mean, we kind of had a little bit of that with Halloween Ends to an extent, like last year, and I just felt like, well, that'd be a little weird. But then the reveal of it is really satisfying. But I just love the idea that like had Richie's family not been involved, like there would have been an entirely different set of killings, and like there's this like deep-seated disturbing aspect to the movie that's kind of an undercurrent throughout it, that like Ghostface is not a supernatural being or anything, but the idea of Ghostface is like ever present. Like had Richie's family not been involved in anything, they still would have been in danger because there was going to be a whole other Scream 6. I just find that to be really, really interesting and unsettling in a different way. Yeah.
It is interesting. Like, I don't know if there's really any other horror franchise where someone can just assume the identity of the boogeyman, or like the boogeyman is just picked up by, someone else.
Like even that. And that I think is one of the main things that I love about this franchise is that it's not only that it's that it's someone who can take up the mantle, but it's also someone who makes the choice to do it. And that brings it to this ground level thing. Like you can have people like you can have like the whole run in the Halloween franchise where Jamie is kind of infected with Michael's like spirit or whatever. Even a little bit with from what I remember in Halloween Ends, kind of that same vibe with the main character there getting kind of the taste for it and everything. But there's no mystical ghost face person who's infecting someone to do that. It's like someone is making the personal choice to go and murder a bunch of people in a ghost face costume. And that is unsettling to me in the kind of best way. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and what's scary is that like becoming Ghostface becomes a seemingly valid choice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because so many others have done it. So it's like, it seems like it has been justified.
Right.
I mean, obviously it's not, but
yeah.
you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, one of the fun things about this movie is that there are 3 killers, which in my brain that corrects something for me in my brain. So now there have been, like before this, there have been 5 movies and 9 killers, because there are two killers per movie, except for Scream 3, which just had the 1. And now we have like 6 movies and a total of 12 killers. And I'm just like, that's right. Like that is mathematically right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, set pieces, we can run through, however many we want to. The bodega scene was pretty much all told in the teaser or the trailer, which is kind of a bummer. I kind of wish that they would have withheld that. But how'd you feel about the bodega scene?
I was bummed out that it was essentially just what we saw in the trailer. It's still, I don't know, there's something satisfying about seeing Ghostface pull a shotgun.
Yeah.
Just because it's so shocking, and the knife has been his signature for so long, or their signature. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That and I don't know. I heard some people kind of had a problem with Ghostface.
Yeah.
Using a gun, but Ghostface has always ended up using a gun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah.
So I don't really see what the problem is.
Me neither. And like I'd heard that kind of criticism too when the trailer came out, and I'm just like, first of all, like it's clear from the trailer that it's not that he went into the bodega with the shotgun. Like he is like Ghostface has the opportunity to take the shotgun.
Right.
Which makes more sense.
It doesn't become his new weapon.
No, not at all. And also on that front, I think that there's this level of obsession from people around the internet about like kind of going into like, oh, who killed who? Like who is the person in this scene when there's multiple killers and everything. And it's this movie kind of I think that this movie kind of plays with that a little bit, or maybe doesn't necessarily play with it, but it basically, with the different masks, like we have Bailey has Billy's mask, and Quinn has Stu's mask, and Ethan has Nancy Loomis's mask, but they're all like differently degraded. Like Billy's mask is the most degraded of it. So like when Bailey is under the mask, like that's him because he has that mask, and he is the one in the bodega, and it makes sense that he's able to get the shotgun and everything because he is a cop. He has police training. Like right. Obviously he's going to be able to get the upper hand and everything. But yeah, it's weird to me that people would have like a I guess a stigma about Ghostface with a gun, because it always ends in gun violence. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, and I mean, I'm totally anti-gun. But,
oh yeah, same here.
But complaining about that in a movie where so many people are killed is kind of silly.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something I had never really thought about before, which is that when they have multiple killers, I don't think any of the movies, at least until their conclusions, have been explicit about which killer kills who.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's kind of a mystery.
Yeah, and it's fun to think about for sure. There are scenes and moments in the movies that kind of reference it a little bit, like in Scream 2 at the end when Billy's mom is like, she says Randy said something negative about Billy, and I got a little knife happy.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's a great scene in Scream 1. It's after Tatum is killed, when Stu is in his doorway, and Billy kind of pops up in the doorway, and then like you just see a look that he gives to Stu. He like raises his eyebrows a couple of times, and it's like him signaling to him like, yeah, I killed Tatum for you, we're good. And then that's
interesting. I hadn't really thought about that.
Oh yeah. So I think that's basically the only examples of that. But there are like whole like YouTube videos like dissecting like, okay, this is where this person is in the movie, so that means that this person needs to be the one that's killing them. And I'm just like, fine, cool. Like, all right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then Scream 5. I'm just geeking out at this point. In Scream 5, before Dewey's death, when they're facing Ghostface and Dewey grabs, like he's getting Richie out of the way, and then Ghostface comes out, and then Dewey shoots Ghostface, and Ghostface goes down and everything. As they're running away, you can see Richie looking like worried at Ghostface because it's Amber, and like he's, he is worried that she just got killed. And it's just like the little like details there. I love it so much. Yeah. So anyway, bodega scene, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also I thought the sequence with the ladder was really intense.
Yeah. I was a little surprised. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. I mean, these movies I don't really get scared like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm mostly, I don't really watch these movies to get scared necessarily. But I thought that sequence was pretty tense and pretty scary.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. Just that impressed me.
Mm-hmm. The payoff of that was really cool. Like Annika falling and like she bangs her head on the dumpster, and like they show it like very just it's good. It's good.
It's pretty gnarly. Yeah.
Yes. But I'm surprised that scene worked for me, though, I will say, because it seems like borderline the most contrived sequence that I can think of. Like, because like it's all set up with Danny. He sees Ghostface across the alley in the room, and so he's trying to call, but he's not getting through. So he airdrops a picture, I guess. And it's like just like, maybe just yell, like throw something at the window or something. And then like his like the answer is to get a ladder. I don't remember if there was an explanation of there being a ladder, like why he got the ladder, but anyway, it felt a little bit contrived, but it still worked for me because it was really intense and suspenseful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we've kind of already talked about the subway sequence.
Yeah. That was what I appreciated about that sequence is that the marketing kind of really played it up to make you think that they're all in one subway car. But separating them was a lot of fun. It made me very nervous. It was really cool. Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
I will say, although I appreciated the use of the city, I do wish it was a little more New York-y.
Oh,
I get that it wasn't filmed in New York.
Right.
And I think, our friend and colleague Andy Carr kind of confronted critics in his review when he said, like, what did you want? Chase through the Statue of Liberty? I just thought, well, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Sue me. That'd be cool.
It really would be.
But I think the subway sequence alone, is very strong.
Oh yeah.
I guess I just wish, I don't know, maybe the ending had taken place in more of a city sort of setting. I don't know.
No, I agree. That is something I appreciate, that the ending does take place at, like, in the shrine and everything. I think that that's suitable for it, and especially suitable for what, like, the motive and like the history of it and everything. But there is something that kind of feels like maybe it should be a little bit more New Yorky, I guess. Not that it's
just
not.
Because
they
hyped it up so much.
Yeah.
The New York setting.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's not fair to, like, compare hype to the actual movie, but still, I don't know. I would have liked my slice a little more New Yorky.
Sure. For me, like, it didn't bother me that much, because I do feel like, for me, the bodega scene, the subway, and even the ladder scene, plus the opening sequence, just felt like it was enough for me for the New York vibe. But yeah,
well, that's
I
fine.
can
You don't have
understand.
to yell at me again.
No. This is where I changed to the voice, to the Ghostface voice. But no, and there was something. Oh, let's talk about the Gale phone call.
Yes.
Like, that's a big set piece. First of all, the setup for that I thought was brilliant. Because as the movie's going forward and unfolding, they make a point to mention, like, the rules scene with Mindy explaining that they're in a franchise now and all bets are off or whatever, that felt fine. But that whole thing set up that, like, okay, it's like they're doing, like, now we're in stab 2, so now this needs to be bigger than that. And then almost immediately after that, we get them trying to set up Ghostface, and, like, as that is being presented to us, I'm seeing, like, oh, there's a van that they're in to kind of trace the call and everything. They're in an open, like, park atmosphere, and I'm like, they're riffing on the Randy scene. This is setting up the Randy scene, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah. That's cool. And then Mindy says that in the van. She's like, this is exactly what happened. Like, this is how my Uncle Randy was killed. And then the switch up to have the call, have Ghostface say that, like, yeah, like, tracing the call to Gale's house, to Gale's, like, penthouse apartment, was really interesting, because to me, even though they didn't kill Gale off, not that they needed to, but that brought a certain amount of tension for me, because in my mind, I am connected to the Randy scene from Scream 2, and then that transitions into a legacy character getting a phone call from Ghostface that historically very few characters survive. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just, like, doing all of these, like, mental gymnastics trying to figure out, like, oh my God, they're doing this, and are they going to kill Gale? And then they damn near do. And I'm just like, this is awesome. This is just so awesome. So yeah. So how'd you feel about the Gale scene? Yeah.
Her, because I think it's only the second time she's talked to Ghostface on the phone, herself.
It is the first time in the franchise.
Okay.
Yeah, which is so, like, that was another thing that I really loved about it, is that at the beginning of the call, Ghostface is like, he says, it's strange that you and I have never talked on the phone before. Right. And, like, there's just something so chilling about that to me, because it is like, no Ghostface is the same, but it's just interesting to hear the person doing Ghostface speaking as if Ghostface is an entity. I just think that that's a really interesting line of dialogue, basically.
Oh, cool. I hadn't really thought about that before. That's interesting. And it's also kind of like it's almost breaking the fourth wall and kind of talking to the audience.
Oh yeah.
Because you can assume that Ghostface has a knowledge of past events, but it's also Ghostface basically saying to the viewer, like, this is a first.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I think, she definitely, it's her first phone call with Ghostface, and she lets them have it with both barrels. Like, she has some great lines.
So great. So great.
It never works out for the dipshit in the mask. I'm going to shoot you in the fucking head.
Yep.
Like, it's just awesome.
Yeah. That whole, like, let me call you back or whatever thing is great. Oh, it's beautiful.
The fact that she uses that to find Ghostface. I mean, because she hears the phone ring, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's like using the communication against him in such a simple way.
Oh yeah.
Is pretty cool. So that was a great sequence.
Yeah, and the moments where I can't wait to see it again because I want to just like absorb more of it and everything because the dialogue is just so interesting. Like, it is clearly like a big set piece sequence for the movie, and having Ghostface just taunt her and like know how to push her buttons, like talking about how Ghostface gets into her head by talking about Dewey and how, Dewey's dead and everything and she couldn't protect him or whatever. And then like after she fires the gun through the door and everything, Ghostface changes up a little bit and is like, oh yeah, maybe you injured me and I'm really hurt now and everything. And it's just like that playful psychopathy is just so awesome. I loved it. Yeah. I'm getting excited to see it again.
Me too, actually. Yeah. I think I might see it again.
Nice. Yeah.
But do we want to talk about the final reveal of the killers?
Yes, let's do that. So this is maybe the point where I'm a little bit not in love with it for the most part. I thought it was fine. I think that the reveal of it being Richie's father and Richie's siblings, that gives it a very interesting interesting vibe to it. I think that it's a little bit lessened by the Quinn fake out death before the ladder scene, and like the reveal that they're all like avenging Richie. Let me go on another little soapbox. Friends of the show, actually, Horror Movie Yearbook. They're a great horror movie podcast from the Midwest Podcast Network. Horror Movie Yearbook, they did their episode on Scream 6, and one of the hosts had said that they wished that, in terms of the motive of the killer, they wished that they hadn't done... there's a line where Quinn says that, like, yeah, it was really easy to spread a rumor that you were responsible for everything and that Richie was innocent, talking to Sam. And so there's a line where Quinn says, like, yeah, I planted that on the internet so people would turn against you. And one of the hosts of Horror Movie Yearbook said, like, it would have been so much more interesting if Richie's family was reacting to that theory and not actively participating in it, so that, like, what if they were like, yeah, you killed, like, Richie, and we're going to murder everyone around you and stalk you and try to murder you too, like, because you fucked with our family. And I can't
like
get that out of my head. Me too.
Much better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because what doesn't work for me, I guess, is, Bailey is a cop.
Mm-hmm.
He knows his son committed these murders and that Sam was ultimately acting in self-defense. It's just like, what's his fucking problem?
Right. Yeah.
I just like this weird, and I don't know if he really explains like turning a blind eye to his son's crimes, but at least I don't remember that.
Right.
But it just doesn't really make sense. And I think, yeah, it would have been so much better if they were reacting to this idea that Sam was Ghostface.
Mhm.
Like, that makes sense. Like, he thinks he's seeking justice as
Yeah.
a cop. And I don't know, there's something just like kind of obviously morally dubious about
Right.
his intentions. And it's like, obviously he's a somewhat rational person.
Right.
So it's weird that he would like have no problem with his son's murders. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, from what I remember, like the most that it does is he talks about how he basically indulged in Richie's fascination with Stab, and like that's where like I thought it was a nice touch that they had like the home movies and like the little like fan films that Richie had apparently made. I guess they got like Jack Quaid gave them like a bunch of actual videos of him as a child, and then he just dubbed over it with voiceover stuff, which I thought was really cool. But having like, I think that's interesting, but also I just feel like that I don't know, I feel like Horror Movie Yearbook just ruined the motive for me.
Because I like their motive so much better.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes more sense, and I feel like that would have been so much more satisfying. Like,
yeah,
I just found myself, I don't know, when the killers were revealed, I felt like the movie kind of fell apart for me a little bit.
I can definitely understand that. I need to see it again, but like it does have that with the Scream movies, like the endings, like the reveals, the killers, they always have to have like the personal killer and the crazy accomplice killer. Like each one follows that. One of the shortcomings of Scream 3 is that Roman has to do double duty of that. So like that is what kind of like mars that performance for me a little bit. And here it's kind of a similar thing because Bailey like Dermot Mulroney like goes for it. Like he is wild in the finale, and I'm not sure if I love it or just like it a lot. Like in my head, and I don't know if this is necessarily exactly how he does it, but like when it's revealed, they're like, "Oh, Bailey, it's you," and he's like, "Yeah, of course it's me." Like, duh. Like, what the hell are you doing? But I don't know. I think that with time I would warm up to it more, but it is where it kind of is a little bit shaky for me.
I guess when he says, "Of course it's me," I had also kind of guessed before then that it would be him and at least his daughter.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't know that other guy would be his son, and I just, when that was revealed, I was like, no, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and I think the fact that Dermot Mulroney does ham it up so much, my instant reaction was like, oh, this is lame.
Oh, yeah.
In retrospect, I kind of appreciate it because I've never really seen him like ham it up before.
Right.
So I kind of appreciate it in hindsight, but in the moment, I was just like, whatever.
Yeah. 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 The other kind of downside for me with that is that it is kind of a little bit, it's fine to riff on Scream 2, but I think that it's a little too close to Scream 2 in that respect, because Scream 2 is the mother of Billy Loomis seeking revenge for Sidney killing Billy, and it's kind of the same thing here, and it's just it just feels a little bit like a retread disguised as homage.
And it's in a theater again.
Exactly. Yep.
Which, like, well, it's funny. You can take it two ways. There's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of echoes of the past movies in these new ones, and you can either think, oh, that's cool, or that's just kind of lame and derivative.
Yeah.
And there's a thin line between those. Like for me in the fifth one, when Nev Campbell says, like, you guys are the most derivative of all, the same house, really?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if expressing the audience's frustration is really enough to make it clever. Like, I found myself, I mean, I do think using the same house is kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if commenting on a tired retread makes it not a tired retread. Yeah.
There needs to be like another element to it to make it less of a retread. Like the house in Scream 22 last year. Stu's house it's fine because they play it up. They play with it a little bit, and they even make it like Amber says kind of in passing. She's like, yeah, ever since my parents bought this place, I became obsessed with the stab movies and stuff. And like it makes sense, but like here it's just like it's just a little too close to what's come before. And having said that, Scream 7, if and when it happens, because it's surely going to happen. Another shout out to Horror Movie Yearbook. They had mentioned that they would assume that they're going to do to follow the pattern. They're going to kind of do a similar sort of riff of some kind on Scream 3, and maybe not go full Hollywood, but maybe do something like that. And like that has me thinking, like, man, even if I don't really like Scream 3 that much, there are ways that they can do that meta level thing in a way that would be unique and interesting, since Scream 3 went so hard on the Hollywood satire thing. They can do something unique while still paying homage to Scream 3 in unique ways. So I don't know. I'm excited for that. If that's where they go, who knows?
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see how they would riff on Scream 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't want to run over our time too much, but should we talk a little bit and then we can kind of wind down. Talk a little bit about Nev Campbell. Like, did you miss her in this movie? Because obviously the background is that she was offered an amount of money to reprise her role as Sidney Prescott that she felt was not suitable given her entire history with the franchise. So she passed. And that I respect the hell out of her for. I'm all for it. Absolutely, she needs to be compensated fairly, and I can't imagine how difficult it was to walk away from whatever they offered and walk away from the franchise or this installment of it. But honestly, it's a testament to the writing and the casting of this movie that I didn't need Nev Campbell. I didn't need the movie to contrive a reason for Sydney to be in New York. Yeah. How did you feel about Sid's absence?
I mean, I love Nev Campbell and I love the character of Sydney. I didn't really miss her though.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fine following the core four. And then I think Courtney Cox has a line like, Sid chose her happy ending or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that I think that's good and that's empowering and she shouldn't come back for a measly sum. So I thought it was fine. It didn't really. Well, and plus, like if you have Sydney keep coming back, it's like, I don't know. I think it's more. I think it's stronger of her to leave Ghostface behind.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, even at this point, like it's Scream 3 and Scream 5 both have, it has to do some light heavy lifting to get her into the mix. Like by Scream 3, she's isolated, she's reclusive, and it takes her getting a call to come back, I guess. She's lured back, I think. And then Scream 5, it takes Dewey being killed for her to get back. And like that, to have like, oh, I'm in New York City. I'm gonna hang out with you guys. Like it doesn't, because she has no connection with the core four. So I don't know, but anyway. Yeah. Do you want to wind down this review?
Yes.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on Scream 6? And what are your expectations? What do you want to see in Scream 7 if and when it happens?
Well, I'll start with Scream 7 because I was thinking when you were mentioning horror yearbook and their theories, I was trying to think of like how could 7 go in the same kind of bold direction that 6 goes by going to New York. You had mentioned maybe it would go in a Hollywood direction. I think it'd be really interesting to set a Scream movie at some sort of film festival or maybe a horror convention.
Yes.
The core four would go to a horror convention or a horror film festival or something. I think that would be fucking awesome.
That it would be fucking amazing if they had like the movie set at like Fantastic Fest or South by Southwest or some kind of genre film festival, basically. I had the idea, and I didn't want to say it because like Mike and I have this whole thing where like I said, like me and him should write out like what we individually think Scream 7 could be or should be, and then set it aside. And then when Scream 7 comes out, he and I would talk about it and then read those notes for the first time in like a year, however long. But Mike, if you're listening, like earmuffs, but I had the thought, and it would be so cool if they did this, and it might be sacrilege for the genre itself, but if they made the opening sequence, like just imagine like the like Paramount and Spyglass Entertainment, whatever logos coming in, and then you have like the like signage of a horror convention, and it's like now the cast, like a cast reunion of the first Stab movie, and like somehow incorporate the Ghostface killing into that. And I haven't worked out how it would fall in and everything, but just establish it as going back to like fandom, and then do like a film festival thing. Like maybe not even make it a horror convention, make it the film festival, a reunion thing, and then like, yeah, I don't know. And there's so much they can do. Yeah, I don't know. I'm giddy for it. I'm excited.
I really kind of hope that that's the direction they go in, because
me too.
I just think that'd be really cool.
Oh yeah.
I can't really think of anything that would be cooler than that. I know there was like a fan idea for something like a cabin in the woods setting. I don't know if that's terribly exciting to me. That sounds kind of boring. There's a cool poster for it, but I think a film festival or a convention's the way to go.
Absolutely. And then of course there is that fan art of the poster of Scream 7 set in space, which,
hey man,
anything's possible. I'm all for it.
I'll watch it.
Oh yeah, same here. Oh yeah. Okay, so that's our review of Scream 6. Let us know what you thought of the movie and everything, and then I don't want to keep you too much longer, Sam, but do you want to do a very brief, like, blurb review of Boston Strangler, or are we running out of time?
I can talk about it real quick. I mean,
Okay.
I don't have a ton to say about it, really.
Honestly, me neither. But yeah, but yeah, let's go into a brief non-spoiler review for Boston Strangler, which is streaming on Hulu. It's a Hulu original, written and directed by Matt Ruskin, starring Keira Knightley, Carrie Coon, Chris Cooper, Alexandro Nivola, Roy Cochran, and David Dasmalchian. Oh my god, I just messed that up. Dasmalchian. The premise is Loretta Laughlin was the reporter who first connected the murders and broke the story of the Boston Strangler. She and Gene Cole challenged the sexism of the early 60s to report on the city's most notorious serial killer. And I have a brief clip from the trailer I'm going to play, and then we're going to go into a non-spoiler brief review of Boston Strangler.
The city is for some glamorous, stimulating, prosperous. Only recently has it become dangerous.
Jack, I think I found something. 3 women were strangled over the last 2 weeks.
You're on the lifestyle desk. You're not covering a homicide.
I think the murders are connected.
Another woman was strangled. Just came over the wire.
I'm killing the follow-up. You don't have a story.
How many women have to die before it's a story?
So, Sam, you wrote a review for Midwest Film Journal of Boston Strangler. I read it today. Very good work.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and you enjoyed this movie, I think, a bit more than I did. I ended up rating it 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. I kind of felt like it was a little bit dry in terms of kind of similar, not as, I'm not going to be as eviscerating as I was about music biopics, but like these kind of true crime, investigative journalism movies kind of follow certain patterns, and I feel like for 2/3 of this movie, it very much follows those tropes and patterns and everything, to the point that, like, I was sitting there, like, when a phone rang in the movie, I was like, oh, this is the moment where she's going to get, like, a threatening call of some kind, and then another scene where she gets notification of another killing, like, I'm like, oh, I bet this is where her husband's going to say, like, oh, were you kidding? Like, you know, like how, like you can't just leave the family like this. Like, yeah, you know, someone was just murdered, like, and she's covering it for the newspaper. But anyway, like by the end of it, it swung around for me because it kind of goes into media a little bit and in a unique way. But for the most part, I just thought that it looked good. It was acted very well, but didn't leave too strong of an impression for me. So how'd you feel about Boston Strangler?
It doesn't do a lot to stand out from other true crime journalism movies. I mean, I think the standout is obviously the story of these 2 female reporters covering something that at the time would have been dominated by male reporters. And it's, you know, it's inspiring to see them kind of rage against the system, and you see how the Boston Police Department didn't handle the killings very well,
right?
Which was apparently the case in real life as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I thought Keira Knightley and Carrie Coon were great together. I like that they, you know, they're very different personality wise, but they kind of show how they feel this sisterhood between them. And you kind of get a sense that they feel a sisterhood with you know, the victims of the Boston Strangler. You know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that classic, like, giving voice to the victims and right. Giving a voice to victims that are not, that, like, people in power do not care to give a voice to. I liked that, the resilience of them to to kind of speak up for the women that were being murdered, and shining a spotlight on it, as it were. But yeah, I did think that was a strong aspect of it.
And you hear actual passages from Loretta McLaughlin's reports, which are cool to hear because her style wasn't just the facts. It was she had a very engaging writing style, and kind of wrote these articles as if they were horror short stories. So it's cool to hear those. I mean, I think it works on a surface level. It kind of gives you what you want. I do wish that it hadn't fallen victim to some of those tropes, like, you mentioned the spouse who's not supportive. What's interesting is that he is supportive in the beginning, and he even tells her, like, no, go to the office, do your work, and he praises her work, and it's like, well, that's kind of interesting to see. And then, of course, there's the scene where he's suddenly upset about it, right? So yeah, I think it's a pretty good movie. It made like I mentioned, the Quill magazine's list of journalism movies. I believe it's so we have 170 movies now.
God, that's amazing.
It's a little hard to gauge quality though, because you're like Boston Strangler, I think, is number 66, and it's like, well, what does that mean?
Right?
Is it good?
Yeah.
So as the list gets longer, it's a little harder to gauge, like exactly, like, how the ranking reflects the quality. But but 66 is pretty high, I think.
Oh yeah.
I think the girl with the dragon tattoo, the David Fincher version, is like 59.
Wow. Okay.
So I guess I was a little higher on Boston Strangler than I thought. But I think in terms of being a journalism movie, it shows that it does a good job of showing this kind of tug of war between journalists and the police department. It's almost as if journalists kind of have a leg up on police, or like they're competing to get the case solved.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. You'd think that there would be more friendly collaboration between the two, but it does a good job of showing, the tension between those two lines of work. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Nice.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that is streaming on Hulu. It's a Hulu original film. It came out last week, but it's streaming on Hulu, and I think that'll just about do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. Sam, thank you so much for joining me once again. It's always a blast to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And before we go, do you want to tell people where they can find you and your work on the interwebs?
Sure. You can find my work at midwestfilmjournal.com, and you can also follow me on Letterboxd at Sam Movie Man.
Nice. And going back to our Cronenberg conversation, you were recently on an episode of Medium Cool, talking about Infinity Pool, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So check that out. I think that was one of the more recent episodes. Yeah, we talk about Brandon Cronenberg and his kind of how he explores similar themes as his father. So yeah, good stuff.
Nice. Well, I'll put a link to all of this stuff in the show notes as well, of course. And of course you can find my stuff at obsessiveviewer.com. Also check out Tower Junkies and Anthology, and also check out the patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm going to go ahead and start playing us out. So Sam, once again, thank you so much for joining me, and yeah, look forward to have you on again soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. And once again, check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And yeah, also Tower Junkies, like I said, but Tiny and I are finally starting the Dark Tower series, so check that out. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. And now, enjoy this short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. For the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, such as early access to episodes, TV, book, and movie reviews and reaction recordings, commentary tracks, and Patreon potpourri episodes, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy.
My brain cannot accept, for whatever reason, like when I know that there are production issues and a certain thing in a movie irks me, that something else was actually intended, especially when I find it out.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I can for sure understand that, but also
like sometimes to a film's detriment. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
you're
I
fine.
feel like I've talked about this before. Like I remember finding out that Django Unchained was written for Will Smith, and he didn't want to do it. Like Quentin Tarantino wrote it with Will Smith in mind. So anytime I watch Django Unchained, and it's so stupid, it's so dumb, because movies are written all the time where they didn't get the actor that they wanted. But I just think, well, they didn't get Will Smith, so it's not the movie that Quentin Tarantino intended, which I hate. That's so dumb. That is wrong. If you're listening to this, don't do that. But my point is, that's what my brain does. Okay.
That makes sense, but I also think that the movies are they're a collaborative process. They're also
they are
contingent on so many different factors. So like Scream 2 and Scream 3 were both, that's a second Rear Window reference. Huh.
Yep.
That they that like Scream 2 and Scream 3 were also very, very, like Scream 2 had to be rewritten because of leaks, script leaks and everything.
Right.
So yeah, I understand that, but it's something to kind of consider,
you just have to
letting go.
You just have to accept what you get. Like
Yes.
the movie is what it is.
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.